Welcome back. We are at lesson 4 of Swift Explorers. So you only have a total of 7 lessons, and I hope you're caught up with what we've done in lessons 1 to 3. Once again, the live lessons as well are worth taking a look at because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in there that's tangential to what we are doing here, but definitely worth exploring. Haha, exploring because Swift Explorers. Ha ha ha. Okay, so let's get started with Swift Explorers lesson 4. We are going to continue using our counter app from last lesson. As you can see on my screen, I have the Swift Explorers lesson 3 counter app. I'm going to tap and hold on it and make a copy. Okay, so I'm going to press duplicate. And now I have Swift Explorers lesson 3 copy. I'm going to rename it over to Swift Explorers lesson 4. Okay, good stuff. I'm going to tap on it now and I'm going to get started with this lesson. As you can see over here, I have a functioning counter app. I've added one extension that I asked you to think about the last lesson, which was the reset button. You can see down here, there is this reset button. There's a button as a counter equals to 0 when you tap on it. So it resets the counter back to 0. And there's a little label. I colored it red because it's like a destructive action. So now if I tap on this, great. Now if I tap on reset, what happens is it will reset it back to 0. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to perhaps add a little encouraging message for our users right at the bottom of our screen. We're going to tell them to keep eating cookies until they hit a certain number, at which point we should tell them to watch out for, like sugar levels and diabetes and things like that. So the way we're going to do that is we are going to add a piece of text, maybe just below the reset button. So let's start by adding a text right here. So make sure you tap on the end of your button. So I'm going to tap over here, press enter. And I'm going to say text, keep going. You haven't had enough cookies. Okay. And maybe you don't want this to be left aligned. Sure. You can center align it with this modifier, .multiline text alignment with .center. That's something we introduced in one of the live sessions. And maybe you don't want this to be right underneath the reset button. You want to have some space between it. So here's another thing we introduced in one of the live sessions. It's called a spacer. So I'm going to put a spacer. And what that does is it really puts as much space as possible between the previous view and this current view. If you still want this to be the center of the screen, here's what you can do. You can go all the way back up to before your text that says how many cookies eaten and add another spacer there. So now the two spaces will kind of balance each other out and say, okay, I will take up this much, you will take up this much, and this is what the layout looks like. Okay. Finally, I'm going to add a bit of padding to my text down here. And here you go. Okay. So that's step 1, just adding a piece of text. Now, what we want to do is when you tap on this enough times, you want this to increase to, let's say 20, right? 20 cookies sounds like a bit too much. And when it's 20 cookies, we are going to set it up so that it says, stop, you've eaten too many. Watch out for your health. And the way we do that is using something you learned back in phase 2 in Learn to Code, if statements. Okay, so if statements are ways to let your computer decide what to do based on something. So what do you want to base it on? Well, you just want to base it on what number is in counter, right? So we're going to do something like this. We're going to say, if counter is greater than or equals to 20, open curly brace, press enter. We're going to say text, you've eaten too many cookies. Please stop, please. Okay. And for this, we are going to have to get you to copy and paste the modifiers as well. So I'm going to select these two, tap copy, and go down here and paste it in. I'm using keyboard shortcuts. There's Command C for copying and Command V for pasting. Okay, so let's leave this and take a look at what happens. I'm going to tap on my thing 20 times. Tap, 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 tap. There you go. It says, you've eaten too many cookies. Please stop, please. But the original message is still there. So how do you make it such that it shows only one of the two? You use this thing called an else statement. Remember else statements? There's a handy little function in if statements. You can tap on the opening curly brace of the if statement and you can say add else statement. Okay, or you can just type it out. And so tap on add else statement and it says else open curly brace with code. And code there is meant to be replaced with what you want to show if the counter is not greater than or equals to 20. So I'm going to go down here, select all this and move it inside. Or I can use this handy little feature where I tap outside this curly brace over here and you can see this little handle show up. And now I can do my little draggy thing. Okay, so I'm just going to tap and hold on this handle and drag it down by a couple of lines and it'll bounce in and be very cool. Right? Make sure you grab all the modifiers when you do this. Okay, I'm not sure what I just did, but let me let go and okay, I've completely ruined it. So be careful when you do this is the moral of the story. Okay, so I'm going to undo that and I'm just going to use my copy and paste method. So I'm just going to select all this. You can hold down shift and use the arrow keys on your keyboard. I thoroughly recommend you do this with the keyboard. You can press Command X to cut, which is copy and delete. So I'm just going to cut this, go inside here, select the code, delete that, and paste Command V. Okay, so now you can look at my screen and it says, hey, keep going. You haven't had enough cookies. I tap, 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 tap until 20, right? Okay, we're 19. Pause. Look very carefully at that text down there. Stare at it. Stare. You've eaten too many cookies. Please stop. Okay, so this thing is got a term. It's called conditional rendering, which sounds very complicated. But it's really just, if certain situation, show this. If any other situation, show that. Okay, that's really all there is to it. And you're going to be using this in your prototypes because you want to change what the user sees on their screen. And that's something that's going to be done using conditional rendering some of the time. We'll show you a few other methods as we go through this course. Now, what I want to show you next is, this is a little bit unwieldy. We have these modifiers for here and these modifiers for here. If I want this text to maybe be, like, I don't want it to be hard to miss, so I want to change the color. So I'm going to do dot foreground color of dot pink. Okay. The only problem here is that this doesn't show up immediately because I need to also add the foreground color modifier to this piece of text over here. So that's not great. Every time you need to repeat code, there should be a way to make life easier for yourself. I just want to emphasize though that because you are just doing prototypes in this course, there will be times where you repeat code. That's perfectly fine. But I'm just using this as an example to teach you something new. Okay, so the something new I'm going to teach you is I'm going to first ask you to delete the if statement. Okay, so the if statement is great. You're going to be using it some of the time. But in this case, there's a better way because I'm going to delete this if statement, delete. I'm going to delete this else statement and delete all the way to the end of the curly brace, delete. And then you notice that my text is kind of off. It's not very indented anymore. The spacer and the text by right should be aligned. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this text. Okay. Shift and the up arrow will help you select. And I'm going to press on my keyboard, Control I. Hold on, Control and press I. That stands for indent. It's going to fix the indentation and it's going to be nicely aligned. Okay. So now what have I done? I've deleted the other message. That's a bit silly. That might not be what you expected. So what I want you to do is go inside the text. Okay, this one you have to be very careful. Go inside the text. That means after the opening round bracket, type in this expression, counter greater than or equals to 20. Okay, type question mark. And afterwards, down here, at the end of your first string, type a colon, followed by keep going. You should eat more cookies. Okay, so that's fairly complicated looking, but let me just break it down for you. There are three parts. First is the conditional over here. This is what would go after the word if in an if statement. Next is what you would put on screen if this thing were true. Okay, if it were true, you will give them this thing. In between the question mark and the colon is the result that you get if it were true. After the colon is the result that you would get if the result was false. Okay, so the way I like to remember this is there's three parts. W for what, T for true, and F for false. What, true, false, right? WTF. That's of course what it stands for. I don't know what else it could stand for. Okay, so once again, what, true, and false. If you've ever used any spreadsheet application, you probably know that if you use an if statement, that's also the same order that they have, right? What followed by true, followed by false. Okay. So if I tap on this, you can see that, oh, great, I can get to 20 and it says you've eaten too many cookies, but I don't want my foreground color to be pink until I've eaten too many cookies. Okay, so we're going to apply the same concept down here to the foreground color. We're going to say counter greater than or equals to 20, question mark. If so, then it's pink. Okay, otherwise, maybe we'll just make it like gray or something like that. Okay, so now you can hopefully see that these two things both depend on the counter being greater than or equals to 20. So I'm going to just tap through this one more time to show it. Tap, 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 tap. And at 19, we all stare at the screen. Stare. There we go. Okay, so that's part one. That's just the part on conditional rendering. Next, we are going to introduce a new concept called sheets. I have to pronounce this very carefully. So what is a sheet? A sheet is something that pops up and shows up in the middle of your screen, graying out the background so that you have to pay full attention to what's on the sheet. You might hear of them as pop-ups on the web, and pop-ups are one of those things that were really infuriating in the early days of web browsing, and they'll just pop up and there'll be an ad and you have to close it, and if you don't close it properly, it will open up a bunch of spam. That's not the case here. The sheets are really things that you need to take note of before you can proceed. One example of sheets is in my Maps app. So let me show you my Maps app over here. There we go. when you first update your iOS or iPadOS, your system apps will tend to have these things that say, what's new in this app? And it says, hey, what's new in Maps? An interactive globe, an updated map style, improved search. Fantastic. But you can't do anything until you dismiss this sheet. How do you dismiss the sheet? Well, there's a little continue button down here. Just going to tap on it, and there we go. Okay, so that's the Maps app and the sheet. You might find them in other places, most notably if you go to the App Store and you tap on your little icon that represents your user avatar, and it'll pop up a sheet with things like updates to your apps, and you can sign out and add funds and things like that. Okay, so let's go back to Swift Playgrounds real quick. Okay, so we are going to make a sheet. We're going to make a nice big sheet and put them in our app. I have to pronounce this word very carefully. How do you make a sheet? First of all, you're going to need another state variable. Okay, so this state variable will control whether the sheet is shown on the screen. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to create another state variable. Notice that state variables have to be created between your struct content view colon view and your var body colon sum view. Okay, so I'm going to create it after this thing over here. And what is a type of variable that only decides whether something is there or isn't there? That's called a Boolean. Okay, so I'm going to say at state var is sheet shown. I'm going to set it to be true first, just so I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to say at state var is sheet shown equals to true. Notice how I name is sheet shown. Lowercase I, capital S, capital S. Okay, this is camel case. I think you might recall that from phase 2. You should now scroll all the way down to the bottom of your view, and we're going to add a sheet as a modifier. Where do you add a sheet as a modifier? In general, you can add your sheet to any view that's on the screen, but for now, I'm going to ask you to choose the third last curly brace over here. Okay, put your cursor over here and type in this dot sheet bracket is presented colon $ is sheet shown, open curly brace, enter. Notice something that's popped up on the right hand side of the screen, right? That's the sheet. Okay, let's put a text inside here that says hi exclamation mark. Okay, so this is a brand new thing. It's a modifier that brings up a little pop-up that says hi, and you can dismiss it by swiping down. Okay, you can't see me do it, but my finger was there swiping it down. All right, how do I get it back? I can just reload the page, or I can press the run button up here to see it in full screen. Let's see what happens when we do that. There we go, hi, and I can pull it down to get rid of it. Okay, so that's a sheet. I'm going to go back to my app. However, we don't really want to have our entire new view inside here in this file. There's a case to be made for having your files be small and containing exactly what they need. So we're going to create a brand new view, put our code inside there, and we will summon that new view. Okay, this is called composing views. You might remember this from phase 2. It was at the end when we put views together out of other views. So here's what I'd like you to do. First things first, let's go tap on the top left-hand corner to bring up the sidebar. Okay, create a new Swift file. Tap on this, create a new Swift file, and you can call this congrats view. Okay, congrats view. So you have content view and congrats view. Now inside here, there's a whole bunch of code that you could type out, or you can go to this link on the screen where there is some template code where you can go to copy and paste. So I'm going to head over there in my browser. So inside my browser app, I already have it open. This is by Jiachen. Thanks, Jiachen. And the best way to copy it is to actually tap on the word raw over here. Okay, it's like sashimi. Tap on it, you get a bunch of text, tap on the screen, and now you can select everything and choose copy. Okay, hope you got that. Now switch back to your Swift Playgrounds app and just tap on it and press paste. Okay, you're going to see 2 import SwiftUIs. You can just get rid of one of them. Now open up the preview on the right hand side, tap on that, and you can take a look at what it gives you. It doesn't give you very much because it's still showing the main app. What you want to do is, you might recall this from phase 2 again, tap on this arrow to go to the second page, which is the preview for this page, and it says text hello world. Okay, these things that are highlighted, these are actually just placeholders. So what I'd like you to do is to tap on this, change it to congrats view. Okay, down here, change this, instead of my view underscore previews, change to congrats view underscore previews. All this should sound vaguely familiar from your About Me app. Down here, change this to congrats view. And up here, this text, congratulations, you have eaten way too many cookies. You should go see a doctor. Okay, something like that, right? That's perfectly fine. So I'm going to say dot multi-line text alignment, dot center as well on this. Okay, so On the right-hand side, it's going to keep trying to refresh the app preview, but you can always go over to the next preview, and this is what you should see. Oh, maybe this could do with some padding. Okay. So that's our view that we are going to present to the user when they eat way too many cookies. Perhaps when they hit 30 cookies. Let's try it out. I'm going to go back to content view, and down here, instead of presenting text hi, I'm going to put here congrats view. Okay. So now it pops up that view. It takes the stuff from that view and puts it inside this screen. What's going to happen now is we are going to check, hey, have we actually eaten 30 cookies? Where can we find this out? Okay, first of all, let's scroll all the way up to the top and set the is sheet shown from true to false. Okay, we don't want to show this by default. Okay, we don't want to tell the user that they should go see a doctor immediately before they start running our app. Next though, where can we actually check what value the counter is? Where can we put this if statement? This is a little bit tricky. You can put it inside here after counter equals counter plus 1. So you are essentially asking Swift, hey, every time you increase, can you please check whether the value has gone beyond 30? So I'm going to say if counter is greater than or equals to 30, what happens? Well, we're just going to set is sheet shown equals to true. Okay, so the moment the counter exceeds 30, show the sheet. Okay, so this button doesn't actually tell the sheet to come up by itself. It just toggles a switch and someone else notices that switch and it brings up the sheet. Let's test out this app. So tap, 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 tap. After about 19, pay attention to the bottom. It will change. You've eaten too many cookies. But next, when I keep going, I persist in eating my cookies, it will now give me a sheet that tells me that I've eaten way too many cookies. I should go see a doctor. And if I really want, I can dismiss this and I can just keep going. But every time I do it from here, because of this particular condition, it's going to keep telling me, hey, stop. No, stop eating so many cookies. Okay? We are just one step away from finishing this app. This thing, maybe it's too easy to dismiss. Like swiping down, super easy to dismiss. We want to have the user spend a bit more effort to dismiss it. And we're going to introduce you to something called full screen cover. This one's really easy to do. You can just scroll down, change the word sheet to .full screen cover. And once again, if you tap on this and you end up with this kind of selection, remember you can always tap on select as text to change back. So change this from sheet to full screen cover. Okay, change nothing else. Just change the word sheet to full screen cover. Let me show you what that does. I'm just going to have to tap until 30. Hang on, tap until 30 and boom. Okay, now I cannot swipe it off because this is a full screen cover. It really covers the entire screen with this modal sheet. The reason why I'm introducing this to you is because maybe you want to have something like this in your app as well. You want to pop up something where people need to read through when they navigate from one screen to another. Now, how do I dismiss this? Okay, just go back to your congrats view. Okay, we're going to add some code to your congrats view. I'm going to ask you to add a new thing over here called an environment variable. You've seen state variables. I'm going to show you this thing called environment bracket / .dismiss. Please make sure you use the right slash. This is backslash. Okay, var dismiss. Okay, so this thing is an environment variable. It's essentially asking Swift for a way to get out of here. Okay. Next, I'm going to have to add a button to my screen, which means I have to add a VStack into here. So I'm going to say VStack, open curly brace. And instead of trying to drag that little thing down, I'm just going to cut and paste my text in all its modifiers inside here. And I'm going to add a button. So this button is just going to have a dismiss, open bracket, close bracket. Don't forget that. So the open bracket, close bracket exists here, but not up here. Okay. After the button's curly brace, type label : curly brace. And we are going to have a text that says, okay, fine. I will stop now. Okay. And down here seems to have some indentation problems. You know what to do. Just select the text and press Ctrl-I. Okay. So now I have a nice little sheet that can be dismissed, but at least we are not letting them just swipe it off the screen. Let me just demo this real quick. And I'm going to tap eat more, nom, 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 tap, 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 tap. Once I get to 20, it turns red. And once I get to 30, I have a brand new thing on screen. And I can't swipe it off, but I can tap on this button and dismiss it. This works for normal sheets as well. So if you want to give people the option to also tap on a button rather than just swiping it off, that is a possibility for you as well. Okay, that's all we have for this lesson. There's quite a lot of content to go through. I would like you to have a thought on how you can customize this counter app. Maybe you can have a fun little image that shows up on the congratulations screen. Maybe you can add some sound. Maybe you can do something weird, and it's up to you. I would love to see what you have come up with. As always, please submit to our Padlet. The link is on the screen. And as always, we'd like you to submit your code. Remember, you can go to code.tk.sg, paste in the code over there, and get a link. When you submit, please make sure you submit both files. There's congrats view over here, and there's content view. Just select them each one by one and paste it into code.tk.sg to get one link, and get another link, and then paste both links into Padlet so that we can take a look at both files when you submit. And if you have any questions, please head over to Discord and ask in the questions channel. We'll be happy to help you. Once you're done, I'll see you on Thursday or Saturday for the live lesson. All right. Thanks so much. See you soon. Bye.